stop. Do not scroll past this. I need you to stay right here for the next few minutes because what I am about to say is something that most women in your exact situation never get to hear. And I mean that. Not as a hook, not as something to get your attention and then disappoint you 30 seconds later. I mean it, because when I sat with this energy today, something came through. That stopped me completely. And I do not stop easily. There is a man in your life right now who is scared of you. Not the kind of scared that makes someone run. The kind that makes someone unable to look away. And you have no idea how much power you are walking around with right now. So before we go anywhere else tonight, let me show you exactly what is happening on his end. Because it is so much bigger than you think. And before we go into what is actually happening with him, I want to bring something through that Spirit is pressing on me to say first. Because this reading is not just about him and what he is feeling. It is also about you and why this specific moment in your life matters more than you might realize right now. The timing of where you are, this particular version of you that exists right now in this exact season was not accidental. Your guides have been working toward this. Every moment you chose yourself over comfort. Every time you sat with discomfort instead of running back to something familiar. Every quiet night you spent rebuilding your relationship with your own truth instead of outsourcing it to someone else's opinion of you. All of that was preparation, and what it prepared is the version of you that this man is now encountering and does not know what to do with. Spirit wants you to understand that what is happening between you two right now is not random. It is not coincidence. It is the natural, inevitable result of you finally becoming rooted enough in yourself that the dynamic around you had no choice but to shift. You did not manufacture this. You simply grew into it. And that distinction matters enormously. He had a version of you in his head. You just became someone else entirely. Okay, so here is what hit me. The moment I connected to this energy, he built a picture of you. At some point, maybe early on, maybe gradually over time, he collected enough observations of how you move, how you respond, how you love, what you tolerate, what makes you stay, and he assembled all of that into a mental image, a file, a very comfortable, very settled, this is who she is file that he stopped updating because he thought he already had the full picture. And here's the thing about people who think they have you figured out. They get lazy. They stop looking. Why would you study something you already understand? Why would you stay curious about someone you already know? So he stopped being curious, stopped paying the kind of attention that he paid in the beginning when you were still unknown to him. He cruised, coasted, operated on autopilot using the version of you he had stored in his head. And then you changed. Not loudly, not dramatically. You did not sit him down and deliver a speech about your growth and your standards and what you are no longer accepting. It was quieter than that, more dangerous than that. You just stopped fitting the file. Aww. And the moment you stopped fitting it, something cracked open in him that has not closed since... Okay, pause. Right here, before we go further, like the video, subscribe if you just found this channel, and then go to that comment section and say something. Because here is what I have noticed after doing this for a long time. The people who comment, who actually write out what they are feeling, they are the ones who walk away with real clarity. Not just a feeling, actual clarity about what is happening in their life and why. So that comment is not optional tonight. Do it. For yourself. What she stopped doing that changed absolutely everything. Let me be very specific here, because I think this is the part that is going to make your jaw drop a little. You stopped reaching, that is it. That is the thing. It sounds so small when I say it out loud, but I need you to understand what that one shift did to this entire dynamic, because it is everything. See, there was a version of you, and I say this with so much love, that was always slightly leaning toward him, always just a little available, always making it just a little easy. Not in an obvious way, not in a way that looked desperate from the outside, but in the way that women who love deeply and hope quietly do, in the way that shows up in checking in just a little more than he checks in always being the one who smooths over the awkward silences, in making sure the connection felt okay, felt intact, felt warm, because some part of you was not quite sure it would stay that way on its own. That leaning, that quiet, constant, almost invisible reaching toward him, you stopped doing it. And the moment you stopped, something in the atmosphere between you shifted so completely that he felt it in his chest before his brain even had language for what had changed. It was like he reached for something that was always there, and his hand closed on. Empty air. And that emptiness woke him up in a way that all of your presence never did. Is that not something? The presence he took for granted. The absence hit him like a wall. And I want to speak to something that nobody ever addresses in readings like this, because we talk about what he noticed, what he felt, how the shift landed for him. But what about what was happening inside you while all of this was quietly changing? Because from the outside, what you did looked effortless. It looked like a woman who simply woke up one day and decided to stop bending. But that is not the full story, and I think you deserve to have the full story acknowledged. What actually happened was quieter and harder than that. There were moments of genuine doubt. Moments where the pull to go back to the familiar version of yourself was so strong that you had to sit very still and talk yourself through it. Moments where the silence from him felt like confirmation of every fear you had about whether you were doing the right thing. Moments where being bold cost you something real and you still chose to pay it. That is not effortless. That is extraordinary, and Spirit is showing me that not a single one of those moments went unwitnessed. Every choice you made in private, when no one was watching, when there was no validation waiting, on the other side of it, was being recorded by something much larger than either of you. And it is that accumulated record that is now showing up as the shift he cannot explain and cannot stop responding to. Here is what feminine boldness actually is, because he never expected this from you. I want to stop here and address something because I think there is a misconception about what boldness looks like on a woman, especially a feminine woman, especially a woman who leads with her heart the way you do. People think boldness is loud, confrontational, sharp edges and hard lines, and a woman who is not afraid to make things uncomfortable. And while none of those things are wrong, that is not what is happening with you. And it is not what has him completely off his feet right now. Your boldness is soft, and that is what makes it so disarming. It is the boldness of a woman who has decided quietly and finally that she is not available for less than she deserves. Not announced that, not posted about it, not made it anyone else's business, just decided it in the private room inside herself, and then let that decision start showing up in how she moves. It shows up in the way you do not over-explain yourself anymore, in the way you say what you mean and then let it breathe without rushing to soften it, in the way you stopped performing happiness in moments that did not feel happy, in the way you hold eye contact now without looking away first, in the way you take up the space that is yours without apologizing for it before anyone even asks you to. That is feminine boldness. And to a man who was used to a version of you that was still figuring all of this out, it reads like an entirely different woman. A woman he is not sure he knows how to handle. And not being sure how to handle you is the most alive he has felt in this connection in a long time. The terror is real. Here is what it actually feels like for him. Okay, so I want to talk about this word, terrified, because I chose it deliberately. And I want to explain exactly what I mean by it. He is not terrified in the way that sends someone running. He is terrified in the way that roots someone to the spot. The kind of terrified that comes not from danger, but from suddenly being in the presence of something that demands your full attention and realizing you have been operating at a fraction of your capacity this whole time. What is happening inside him is this. Every time he comes into your energy now, every interaction, every moment of proximity, he becomes aware of a gap. The gap between what he has been giving in this connection and what the woman standing in front of him actually deserves. That gap used to be invisible to him, not because he is a bad person, but because you were filling it, quietly, without complaint, filling the space between what he offered and what a real connection requires. You stopped filling it. And now he can see it. And seeing it means he has to decide what he wants to do about it. Does he step up and close that gap himself? Does he start showing up at the level that this version of you actually requires? Or does he stay where he is and accept that where he is no longer enough to keep you close? That decision is sitting on him right now like a weight he cannot put down. And the discomfort of carrying it, the discomfort of having to actually look at himself and his choices and whether they are good enough, that discomfort is the terror, and he cannot escape it because you are no longer making it easy for him too. And I want to get very specific about what his internal world actually looks like right now, because I think you need to see it clearly rather than just imagine it. He is not okay in the comfortable way he used to be okay. That settled, nothing can really touch me quality that he carried into this connection, that quiet confidence of a man who has always been the one with more leverage, it is gone. Not permanently, but for right now in this season, it is genuinely gone. He is in a state of real evaluation. Not the surface kind where someone briefly wonders about a situation and then moves on. The deep kind. The kind that happens at 2 a.m. when there is nothing left to distract from the honest version of your own thoughts. He is asking himself real questions about what he actually wants, what he is actually capable of, and whether the gap between those two things is something he is willing to do the work to close. And the reason those questions are so uncomfortable is because for the first time, the answer is not guaranteed. You have made the answer genuinely uncertain. And a man who is not used to uncertainty, especially when it comes to someone he cares about, that uncertainty is one of the most humbling experiences he has ever had. And now the attraction. And I need you to really hear this part. Okay, this is the part I have been building toward, and I want you to actually receive this, rather than just hear it. The attraction he is feeling toward you, right now, is a completely different category of feeling than anything he has felt in this connection before. And I want to explain why, because I think it matters, for how you understand what is happening. What he felt before was comfortable attraction, the kind that develops when someone becomes familiar to you, when their presence feels like home, because it has always been there, when you know how they are going to respond before they respond, and that predictability feels like safety. That kind of attraction is real. It is warm, but it has a ceiling. It gets domestic. It gets taken for granted in the exact same way that he took you for granted. What he is feeling now has no ceiling. He can find because you are no longer predictable to him. And unpredictability in someone you care about is one of the most potent things a human being can experience. It forces you back into a state of genuine attention, of real curiosity, of needing to actually pay attention because you can no longer assume you already know what is coming. He is paying attention to you now in a way he stopped paying attention a long time ago. And what he is seeing when he actually pays attention is a woman who is so completely, quietly, undeniably herself that he cannot look away. There is something I keep seeing when I tap into his private moments. The moments when he is alone and nobody is watching. And the performance of being unbothered is not necessary. He thinks about you. Not the way someone thinks about a problem they need to solve. The way someone thinks about something they are genuinely in awe of. There is a softness in him when you enter his mind in those private moments that he would absolutely not show you if you asked him about it right now. But it is there. It is completely there. What he cannot say, but his whole body is saying, let me tell you, what is happening in the moments between you two. Right now. The real moments, not the surface of them. Every time he is around you, there is this specific quality of awareness that he cannot turn off. Like his whole system is tracking you, noticing things, the way you carry yourself, the way you respond to things, the way you make decisions without looking to him for confirmation first, the way you laugh without wondering if it is the right moment to laugh, the way you exist so completely inside your own experience that you have somehow stopped needing the interaction to go a certain way in order to feel okay. That quality of self-containment in a woman is one of the most attractive things a man can witness, because it does something that reassurance and availability never do. It signals that being chosen by you means something, that your attention and your love and your time are not just available to anyone who wanders into your path and stays long enough, that there is a standard being kept. Not announced, not performed, just kept. And meeting a standard, being someone who actually gets to receive the fullness of a woman who knows her worth, that is something a man feels in a way that changes him. He is changed. He may not have words for it yet, but he is changed. So what do you actually do with all of this, huh? Okay, here is the answer, and it is going to sound too simple. Nothing. You do not do anything. You do not strategize. You do not craft a response, or plan a conversation, or figure out the perfect amount of distance to maintain so that the energy stays in your favor. You do not manage this. You do not perform this. You do not check every few days to make sure the boldness is still working. You just keep being who you have become. That is the entire strategy. Full stop. Because here is what nobody tells you about genuine inner transformation. Once it is real, it does not need your maintenance. You do not have to remember to be this version of yourself. You do not have to remind yourself each morning to hold your ground. You do not have to monitor whether you are coming across a certain way. The work is already done. It is already in the body. It is already in how you breathe, and how you stand, and how you decide to spend your time, and whose energy you allow close to yours. The boldness is not something you are doing. It is something you are. And something you genuinely are does not need to be managed. It just needs to be lived, so live it. Show up in your life as this woman, not as a strategy, but as a reality, and let every person around you respond to the truth of who you have become. The ones who rise to meet it are meant to be there. The ones who cannot will show you that clearly and quickly and save you years of wondering. Either way, you win. That is what genuine boldness delivers. And before I close, I want to leave you with something that has nothing to do with him and everything to do with you and what is coming next in your life. Because this reading has been largely about his reaction, his fear, his attraction, his internal tug of war. And I think it is important to land somewhere that puts you back at the center of your own story, where you belong. What Spirit is showing me about your next chapter is genuinely exciting. Not because of what he chooses, but because of what you have already chosen. The version of you that exists right now is going to walk into rooms and opportunities and connections that the old version simply was not a match for. Not because you are better than you were, but because you are more yourself than you have ever been. And being fully yourself makes you a match for things that required this specific version of you to arrive. There are people coming, connections coming, aligned opportunities coming, and they are calibrated to the woman you are right now, not the woman you used to make yourself smaller to be. That is the real prize here, not whether he steps up, but what steps toward you when you are finally standing fully in your own light. Last thing, and I mean this more than anything else I said tonight, the woman you used to be, the one who bent herself into whatever shape was needed to keep the peace and keep the connection and keep him comfortable, she was not weak. I need you to hear that. She was extraordinary. She loved with everything she had, and she kept showing up, even when showing up cost her something real. But she was also exhausted, and somewhere underneath all of that extraordinary giving, she knew in the quiet, honest part of herself that she was not being met. Not really. Not at the level she was actually capable of receiving if someone would just step all the way up. You are no longer waiting for someone to step up before you step fully into yourself. You stepped into yourself first, and now the question for him is whether he is going to meet you there. He is scared, because he has never had to decide that before with the old version of you, the decision was already made for him. You were there. Always, regardless, now he has to actually choose. Actively, every single day. To show up at the level this version of you exists at. And that terrifying, beautiful, completely unavoidable accountability, that is your feminine boldness, doing exactly what it is supposed to do. Wear that crown, loves, you earned, every single part of it. Drop a comment and tell me what hit you tonight. I see every single one. Take care of yourselves.